First graders, thank you for tuning in. Today, Thursday, we are on chapter 11. Chapter 11. The next, apple pie is what this one's called. Thanks a lot, Boxcar children. Now I'm hungry. The next morning was very cold. Benny did not want to get up at all. No, he said, it's so cold that I'm not going to get out of bed. Henry looked out at the ocean. I have an idea. He said, it's too cold outside today. Let's all stay inside and paint our birds. Fine, agreed Jesse. I'll light the stove and we'll shut the barn door. It'll soon be warm. In spite of what he had said earlier about staying in bed, Benny opened the swinging door of his room and came out wearing his red sweater. He was carrying a little toy boat, which was in the package his grandfather had given him. I like my new boat, said Benny proudly. Let's make it go, Henry. Put it in that pail of water, Benny, said Henry. You play with your boat while we get ready to work. The girls helped Henry put the table in the corner under the window. Then Jesse brought the bird books and some heavy paper. The girls helped Henry put the table in the corner under the window. Then Jesse brought the bird books and some heavy paper. I'm going to use my new pen, said Violet. Grandfather knew I needed a new one. He knew I wanted a set of things like this to fix cuts, said Henry. It will be handy to have when we go on picnics or exploring. Grandfather had given Jesse a set of 6 cooking spoons. Are you going to use your new spoons today, Jesse? Asked Violet. I might, said Jesse. I have a good idea for dinner this noon. I think you'll like it, but I won't tell you what it is until we have finished painting the birds. Let's get to work then, cried Henry. I'll cut out paper birds and you go color them. Go cut out a picture of every bird we have seen, said Jesse. The bird books tell all the names. The children worked all morning. Suddenly, Benny said, Henry, I think Joe ought to have stayed here to see Grandfather. I think so too, said Henry. It seems very strange, said Violet, for him to just go off without telling us. We'll ask him when he comes back, said Jesse. And now, I'll tell you my surprise for dinner. I'm going to make an apple pie. But you never made apple pie, said Henry. Especially, you've never made a pie. No, said Jesse, but I'm going to now. She took a pan of very small green apples out of the cupboard. Where did you get them? Asked Benny. Near the yellow house, said Jesse. There are 2 apple trees there. I'll get them ready, said Violet. Good. And Henry, won't you smooth off one of those boards for a pie board? Jessie washed the new board. Then she picked up a big empty green bottle. This is my rolling pin, she said. I'm going to try to make some good pie crust. So over and over she rolled the crust. She put some butter on it and rolled it out again. But when Jessie put the bottom crust in the pan, the crust was not big enough. Put a patch in it, said Benny. Jessie took a little more crust and smoothed it over the edge of the pan with her fingers. There she is doing it. This is going to be a very deep pie, she said, and there will be lots of apples in it. That sounds amazing. Benny watched Jessie roll out the top crust. Make it big enough this time, Jessie, he said. There are lots of apples. Jessie rolled the top crust a little thinner. It was just right. When the pie was in the oven, she began to boil some sugar and water in the saucepan. What's that for? Asked Henry. He began to take things off the table. Just wait, said Jessie. It's going to be the best thing about this pie. You see, there isn't any sugar in the pie yet. So there is no juice to boil over. Why don't you go get out the bread and milk and set the table. Then everything else will be ready when the pie is done. When the crust was nice and brown, Jessie took the pie out of the oven. She lifted up the top crust with a knife and carefully poured the hot juice over the apples. Then she let down the crust again. Just as Jessie was about to cut the pie into 4 pieces, there was a knock at the barn door. Who in the world can that be? Cried Henry. He was so surprised that he almost dropped his cup. When Henry opened the door, it was even more surprised to see a tall man standing there. I'm sorry, said the stranger, but I went to the fisherman's hut and nobody was home. Won't you come in? Asked Jessie. Thank you. It's a cold day, said the man with a smile. Oh, I see that you are about to have dinner. I'll just stay long enough to ask you something. Won't you sit down? said Henry. Thank you. My name is Browning, he said as he sat down in the company chair. A young man who went exploring for me last year has been lost. I heard that he was dead. Then later, I heard that he was living on the Alden Island. This is Alden Island, isn't it? Yes, said Henry. But there's nobody on the island but Captain Daniel and his friend Joe. Who is this Captain Daniel? Asked Mr. Browning. Oh, Captain Daniel's old, said Henry. And I'm sure he never went exploring. He has been with my grandfather for years. How about his friend Joe? Asked the man. He's nice. He's my best friend in all the world, said Benny proudly. All but Jessie and maybe watching Captain Daniel, and of course Violet and Henry and my grandfather. You have lots of best friends, said the man, laughing. Tell me, what color are Joe's eyes and hair? He has brown hair and brown eyes, said Benny, and he has a violin. I don't think he is the one I know, then, said the man. I never heard that he played the violin. Just the same, I should like to see your Joe. Won't you wait for him? He is sure to come back soon, said Jessie. Why don't you stay to dinner and help us eat our first apple pie? The man looked at the big pie and said, If you're sure there will be enough, I think I will. And so will Mr. Pernsteiner, if there's any left. So the pie was cut into 5 pieces. Violet quickly got an extra cup of milk and set another place, and the stranger sat down to a strange dinner. When I look at that pie, said Mr. Browning, my mouth fills up with water. I agree. And certainly everyone was watching Jessie as she took out the big, juicy pieces. Milk seems to go with apple pie, said Henry. I never knew pie could be so delicious, said Mr. Browning when dinner was over. But now, if I may, I think I will see if I can find Joe. We think that Joe is more than a handyman, said Henry. Joe knows everything in the world, said Benny. He knows all the flowers and the birds and the clamshells and Indian things. Indian things, cried Mr. Browning. It must be the very one. He was the head of a museum before he went away. I must see him. But Mr. Browning did not see Joe. Captain Daniel came back to the island without him. He said that Joe had gone away for a day or two. Is he coming back? Asked Benny, getting ready to howl. Oh, yes, said Captain Daniel. He will come back all right. When Mr. Browning left, he told Jessie that he was glad he came. For now, he had met a girl who could make a wonderful apple pie with an old green bottle for a rolling pin. Chapter 12, The Picnic. Nice. Okay, here's a picture. All right. The children were waiting upon the dock when Joe came back. He came back, sweet. But it was too late then to find Mr. Browning. Jessie began, You know, Joe, Grandfather said we should never build a fire outdoors unless someone older helped us. Now we have such a good place for a picnic, we thought we'd invite our school friends over for a picnic on the beach. They have never seen this island. I'll be glad to help you build a fire if that's what you want, said Joe. Oh, thanks, Joe, said Jessie. The 4 children invited their friends over Captain Daniel's telephone. All of them said they would come. Henry's friend was a tall boy named Morris Wilder, and Jessie's friend was Morris's sister, Marjorie. Violet invited her friend, Barbara Black. Benny surprised them by saying he wanted to invite Mike Wood, a little boy who was always in trouble. Mike and Benny will be quite a pair, cried Henry, but I suppose he can invite anyone he likes. We all did. We'll have fish chowder for dinner, said Jessie. We can always get some fish from Captain Daniel. And we'll all pick blueberries after the others get here, said Henry. That will be something to do. When the guests arrived, Watch was very excited. Mike had brought his big white dog, Spotty, with him. Jessie had a hard time trying to keep the dogs from fighting, but after a lot of barking, Watch and Spotty were friends. Let's race the dogs, Ben, cried Mike, who could never be still very long. I know there's a few of you in the classroom that can't be still for very long. It's hard to sit still sometimes. The 2 boys held the dogs for a minute and then let go. Both dogs seemed to understand, for they raced to the beach where they dropped, panting, not painting, on the sand beside Joe. Watch knew the way and got there first. Spotty got there first, shouted Mike. He did not, cried Benny. He didn't even know the way. Benny, Benny, said Henry, don't start the picnic fighting. Watch got there first, and you know it, said Benny. Spotty is better than Watch, said Mike. Spotty is not better than Watch, shouted Benny. Watch can run faster than Spotty, and he got first in the race. You started this fight, Ben, said Mike. I did not start it, shouted Benny. Yes, you did too, shouted Mike. Now listen to me, young fellow, said Morris, catching Mike's hand. You stop or you'll have to go home. Mike began to jump up and down when suddenly he jumped on a very sharp shell. Then Mike sat down holding his foot and crying at the same time. Henry sat down too and tried to look at Mike's foot. He took out his box of things for fixing cuts. Keep still now, Mike, he said. You've got a long cut here, but it's not deep. Let me fix it. The cut foot was a big help to everyone. It kept Mike in sight all morning, while the other 4 children and Joe picked blueberries. At noon, Jessie and Violet watched while Joe made a fire and boiled some water. Henry and Morris cut the potatoes and onions with the chowder soon ready. Everyone enjoyed the chowder, and the boys had made enough extra for supper too. After blueberries and milk, Jessie and Violet washed the dishes in the ocean, while Benny and Mike walked away slowly. Keep an eye on Mike, Henry, said Jessie. I can see them. They're just sitting over there on the rocks, said Henry. But the next time he looked, the boys had gone. Where could they go? He cried, getting up quickly. There's no place for them to go because I can see the whole beach. But the little boys were not in sight. As Henry climbed upon the rocks, he was very glad to hear Benny's voice. I wonder who left the bottle here, said Benny. Henry and Morris looked under the rocks in a tiny cave. How in the world did you boys get in there? Asked Henry. The stone came off, said Benny, and it was like a door. We pulled it away. It was awful heavy. There they are. Say, you fellows climb out of there and let's go in, said Morris. The little boys obeyed at once, and the 2 older boys crawled in and looked around. They saw a big stone table with an old bottle on it. Let's take out the bottle, said Henry. There may be something inside. Look, Joe, said Morris. See what Ben and Mike found? There's a paper inside the bottle, said Henry. Shall we take it out? Why not, said Joe, turning it over. Maybe there's a name on the paper. Let me get the paper out with my knife, said Henry. The mouth of the bottle was just wide enough for the knife. Henry pulled the paper out easily and read, If found, give to J. Alden, 6 feet from cross to Red Rock, and 3 feet down J.A. and R.W. Grandfather must have left it here when he was a boy, said Henry, but I don't see any cross. I do, said Mike. That's right over there. He pointed to a strange rock. It did look like a cross. And there's the Red Rock, cried Violet. See? This will be easy, said Morris. You run a string from the cross straight to the Red Rock. Then what does it say? He looked at the paper again. 6 feet? Well, 6 feet from the red cross, you dig down for 3 feet. There must be something there. Could it be a treasure? The children were excited as they tied the string to the Red Rock. Sorry, I got distracted. I was looking at the cool picture. Hold on, I'll show it to you. Joe showed them where 6 feet would be. I'm about 6 feet, so if I just laid on the ground, that would be 6 feet long. Then they took the turns digging with a spoon. Ooh. With Watch and Spotty to help, they dug a hole 3 feet deep, but there was nothing in it but water. After an hour's digging, they had still not found anything. We can dig some other day, said Henry at last. It may be down 12 feet since the paper is very old. It's true. All the children but Mike were tired and were glad to sit down on the grass. The little fellow still sat beside the hole with Spotty, digging away with the spoon. Then suddenly he began to shout, It's mine! All mine because I found it! You can't say it isn't because you all stopped digging! Here he is. So here's the rock with the string, 6 feet. And here is all of them. And his little friend, Mike, found something. There we go. When the children ran to the hole, they saw Mike pulling out a black box covered with wet sand. And Mike went on shouting, I found the cave, too, and made Ben help me take the door off, and I found the cross and I dug out the box. It's all mine! Don't talk so much. Of course it's yours, Mike, said Henry. Why don't you open it? It was not hard to do this because the box was very old. Mike pulled off the cover with his fingers and the children saw a pile of old money. Mike put the money, one piece at a time, in the cover of the box. Just $5, said Mike. What a lot of money, Mike. Oh, just $5, said Morris. What a lot of money, Mike. I said that wrong. I'm sorry. Grandfather will give him a $5 bill, said Jesse. I think he would like to keep this old money he put in here when he was a boy. Wouldn't you like to have a new $5 bill, Mike? Yes, of course, said Mike, who had never had a dollar bill before in his whole life. Could you imagine never having a dollar ever and finding $5? You'd feel rich. Now, if you found $5 in today's day and age, you could buy 5 things from the dollar store. You could buy a box of cereal. Gosh, the way some boxes of cereal are priced these days. You could buy a really big 12-pack of Pop-Tarts. You could buy a Pokemon booster pack. Maybe a small stuffed animal. A small one. Yeah. What would I spend $5 on? Gas. Gas for one of my cars, which isn't much. Just then, the children heard a shout coming over the water. They noticed a boy in a rowboat who was standing up, shouting and pointing at the water. A dark head showed for a minute, and then it went out of sight. There's somebody in the water, too, cried Morris. Henry heard Joe say to himself, I'm not afraid. Joe took off his shoes, jumped into the water, and swam very fast. Bring the boat here, he shouted to the boy in the boat, but the boat went right past him. Oh, come back. Joe. Oh, come back, Joe, cried Benny. Sorry, I got confused there what this was talking about. He'll come back all right, said Morris. He's a wonderful swimmer. Look. As Morris spoke, Joe swam under the water suddenly. When he came up, he was pulling the boy to the rowboat. It seemed hours before Joe finally got the boy into the boat and pulled himself in. Oh, so a boy fell out of the boat? Whoa, okay. Good for Joe, shouted Henry. I hope he got there in time. Everybody ought to know how to swim, said Morris. That boy was afraid. He just stood there and yelled. He couldn't have even bring the boat over when Joe asked him to. All this time, Mike had not said anything. He stood very still as he looked out over the water. The little fellow seemed to have turned to stone. Why are you so scared? Asked Henry. I think it's Pat, said Mike, still staring at the boat. Pat, who is he? Asked Henry. He's my brother, said Mike. He's 11 years old. I think he was the one in the water. You can't see that far, said Morris. What makes you think it's Mike? What makes you think so, Mike? Well, I told him there would be something to eat this picnic and that maybe we'd play ball. I begin to see, said Henry, looking at Morris. Do you know who the older boy is? Maybe Johnny, said Mike. I told Johnny too, and he knew about a rowboat he could get. How did they get the boat? Asked Morris. They just took it, said Mike. What an awful thing to do, shouted Henry. Besides, they can't swim or row. It did seem so, for Joe was rowing. One boy was out of sight in the boat, and the other boy sat at one end. When Jessie saw the boat coming, she called to Marjorie, Let's run to the barn and get some blankets and towels. Good for you, Jessie, called Joe when the girls brought the blankets. Lay them down on the other side of the fire. So it must be pretty cold at this time. Jessie and Marjorie spread out the blankets while Henry and Morris caught the boat as it landed on the beach. Is it Pat? Said Mike in a frightened voice. Isn't it Johnny? Yes, said Johnny, but he'll be all right. This man said so. He's lucky, said Henry. Lucky that Joe knew how to swim. Pat was very still when the boys helped Joe lift him out of the boat and roll him to a blanket by the fire. We won't talk to him now, said Joe, rubbing the boy's hair with a towel. We'll let him sleep first. He's all tired out. Here they all are. That's a lot of kids on the island now. How many can you count? You might want to pause. What was it, 10 kids and a Joe? 10 kids and a Joe. That makes 11 people. I guess you won't have to talk to him, said Johnny, who was very white. We won't ever have to take a boat again. No, I don't believe you will either, called Joe as he went back to the hut for dry clothes. Just then, Mike said, Pat didn't get any dinner. Will you heat up some chowder for him, Henry? He can't eat when he's sound asleep, can he? Asked Morris. No, but he'll wake up when he smells the chowder, said Mike. Maybe I could have some more myself because I didn't eat much lunch. Oh, I should say you didn't, said Morris. Only 3 bowls full. I'll tell you what we can do, said Joe, who had come back wearing dry clothes. We have just enough to play ball if Mike is eating and doesn't want to play. Oh, I want to play, shouted Mike, jumping up and forgetting about the cut on his foot. And so all the children played ball. Later, there was more chowder for everyone, and Pat did wake up when he smelled the food. This is the best picnic I've ever been to, said Mike, passing his bowl again. Hold on there, warned Joe. Don't give him any more, Henry. 6 bowls of chowder in one day are enough for one small boy. Wow, that's a lot. Just then, Captain Daniel came with the boat to take the children home. And now Benny began to cry because his friend was going. Oh, what are you crying about, Ben? Asked Mike. I wouldn't cry at nothing. So nobody cried when the company started for home on the boat. When Mike could not hear Benny's answer, he put his 2 hands up to his mouth and shouted, Spotty can run faster than watch. Well, Benny, don't you care, said Henry. Just be glad the day is over with no more trouble. You're right, said Joe. What a day. Then Henry remembered that Joe had said he was well again. And when Henry told Jessie about it later, she thought it was very strange, too. That's the part when I was reading, I was kind of confused. I was like, what is he talking about? All right, chapter 13, tomorrow. And, oh, nice. Chapter 13 and 14, and that's it. This book will be done on Friday, and I'll be starting a new book on Monday for our last week of school. Oh, my goodness. First graders, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for listening and bearing with all my mistakes that I made while reading when I got confused. Let's see. Today, I'm definitely going to mow my lawn because tomorrow morning, early in the morning, is when my green bin goes. So you know how your garbage can gets picked up and your recycle bin gets picked up? Well, the green bin, the big green garbage can, it gets picked up tomorrow too. And it's about half full, so I got to fill it up and get my money's worth this week. Fill it up with grass clippings. So, and maybe I might pull a couple weeds, but really it's not too bad. When I pulled weeds yesterday, I was like, wow, we've really got a pretty good control of this place. So I was also thinning out some plums yesterday because they were grown in big clusters. And they were really small, so when they get big, they'll be too crowded. So I had to pull them out, thin them out, so they could actually move around. So the fruit will be nice and big, and it won't be pushed against other fruit getting bruised. That's what I did yesterday. Today, so far, mowing the lawn. I'm going to eat some food, get some coffee. I hope you're having a good day so far. Oh, and we have a Zoom meeting tonight. At 7 o'clock, the usual time. Show and tell. Have 2 things for show and tell. Okay? 2 things you want to show us? Talk about them. If you have a brother or sister that want to join us and share something that they have, more than welcome to. I'm inviting siblings to join this one for sure. And I know there's been a couple siblings that have been at most of our meetings, and that's cool too. But yeah, if you have a brother or sister that want to share something with us and join us for a minute, that would be awesome. Get to see each other's families. So, yes, I hope to see you tonight at the Zoom meeting. I emailed the invite yesterday, so tell your parents it's in your email. And I hope to see you tonight. Thanks for tuning in.